Decorative pots can now finally be filled and have new automation. Plus, Mojang just fixed a 10-year-old bug of mine. Hello there, Ray here. Let's take a look at this brand new snapshot for the 1.20.3 Java edition, and then we'll talk about other Minecraft news like Mojang nerfing the Crab Claw before it's even out. We finally got what we always wanted, guys, and that is pots can store items. So if we go ahead and just right click on the pot, you can see we can put items into it. Makes a little puff at the very top. Let's go ahead and just place all these items in and see what happens when it's full. Doesn't change its looks at all, but we can't place in any more items. And pots can only hold one stack of items of one type. Now to get the items out, you can't actually open up the GUI to look inside like you can with most containers. Instead, you have to actually break it. And there's also this cool animation of it kind of wobbling when you're placing items into it. If you try to put in a different type of item, it wobbles the other direction. Same thing if you try to right click on it with the empty hand. But since they're a container, they can also be used with other things like droppers and hoppers. So we can have this dropper here automatically put items into the pot, and then we can have this hopper here pull items out of it. And we can use comparators to read how many items are inside. So if we go ahead and unlock this and then put some items in through this hopper right up here, we can see the comparator turns on. And when it's completely full, you can see it puts off a really long redstone signal with a power of 15. When interacting with the pot, it causes that wobble, but this also can be detected by skulk sensors with a frequency of 11. You can also destroy the pots using projectiles. Look at that. One hit and it breaks it down, which will drop the items, but also drop the pot, but as the clay bricks. You might have also noticed that pots themselves can stack now up to 64, which is amazing, but before there were only stacks of 1, which was super annoying. Now you can use pots as a kind of an item sorter. You can put one item of your choice inside, then anything else that tries to go inside has to be that same type of item. If it's anything else, it won't go inside. This is really no different than any container that is holding just one type of item. So it won't be like a new revolutionary new type of item sorter, because the pot itself can't actually pull items into it, unlike the conventional item sorters, which use hoppers that not only can pull items from above them, but can also take those items and push them out of it. But this is really cool for map makers, so they can have players that come across these cool pots, and then if they want this stuff inside, they're going to have to break them down in order to get the items. Now, pots were always considered tile entities, but now they're actually keep track of what items are inside. And when it comes to pot's NBT data, they have something called cracked, and before cracked would just change the noise of the pot when it's broken. But now when it's set to true, if a player would break it even with their hands, they don't actually get the pot item back, but instead it breaks down into the clay bricks, which is another cool thing for map makers. What are you going to use the new pot's functions for? Snapshots, pre-releases, and release candidates can now be accessed on Realm servers, but the snapshot realm is going to be separate from the normal realm. So now that I'm inside of a snapshot, and if I click on this, you can see it can actually be opened in the actual snapshot. Commands got some changes today with the function command and how they work with the new return command. Related to functions, they also changed the limits when it comes to these to prevent a wide range of exploits, including stuff like having a new game rule max command fork count, which restricts the total amount of context that can be created by a single state of functions. Another example is if they had 5 entities and you make 5 entities all do 5 things themselves, this can easily create a bunch of lag and crash your server, so you can limit the total number of these contexts. They also brought back the execute if function, so you can make it run only if certain things occur. There's also matching, where something has to match before it will actually work, and the return to run command is also back. This is for if some part of it doesn't work, it can still continue running. Mojang has finally fixed a 10-year-old bug report of mine. It all started when I wanted to throw potions through another portal so that they would land on the other side to kill a blaze in hopes to get the XP as well as the player kill, meaning I'd also get the blaze rod. But as you can see, despite me, the player, throwing the water potions and actually killing the blaze from my water potions, I didn't get any XP or blaze rods, because when the potions went through the portal, they weren't considered the players anymore. So now this is finally fixed, which means any kind of thing that player sends through the portal should remember who sent it. So the player can shoot like arrows, potions, snowballs, eggs, ender pearls, fishing rod bobbers, and even TNT, and it should remember who sent it. Now, fishing bobbers don't actually get teleported by the nether portal. Ender pearls can be thrown through the nether portal, and you can hurt mobs on the other side with them. They won't teleport the player through. Eggs are a bit like ender pearls, where they sometimes can go over to the other dimension, but sometimes they just end up going through this actual portal and hitting back on the nether side. Now, TNT never went through nether portals. So I don't know if they'll change that someday. It would be cool. Which gets me to the main thing I wanted to do, which was have the player over in the nether dimension be able to kill mobs that we are storing in the overworld, because those mobs don't count to the cap in the nether dimension. So here we got a super powerful looting sword in my main hand, and on my offhand I got some snowballs. If I throw these snowballs through the nether portal, you can see it can hit the blaze on the other side. And when I kill it, it would then count as a player kill. And killing mobs this way will give us looting. That means my dozens of different types of original nether portal farms where mobs spawn in and then get taken over into the other dimension. All these dozens of different types of portal design farms are all based off of my original design, which is the fastest farms of their type, and a lot of people have used my different portal designs throughout the years, although some people try to take credit for my original design. So if you see anyone using these nether portal designs without giving credit, make sure to leave them a comment. Also contact me so I can get in contact with them. This opens the door up to a new type of farm. So if you've seen some of my original portal farms, you'll know that we will first transport the mobs over into the other dimension. That way they don't count to the dimension mob cap that they're in. And then once they are over here, then all we have to do is wait a little while before we send them through the portal again back onto the same side where the player's AFK. In this case, I also would damage the mobs so that they're easy to kill, and then I would push them back over into the other dimension where they originally came from. This is where we would have the player sitting AFKing, and as they come through, we would kill them using our looting sword, with the objective being that we can gather mobs from a large location and bring them all to a single location where the player can kill them, all without having to transport them from all the different locations to this area, but using a bunch of complex and slow machines to move them. Instead, we quickly move them to a different dimension, so more mobs can immediately spawn into here, and then we just briefly push them back over to this dimension, just long enough so the player can kill them and get tons of loot. They're all considered a player kill, so you can get stuff like tons of blaze rods. But the one negative side to this type of design is that the blazes that come back through this nether portal are sitting here and are holding up the mob cap, so no other blazes can spawn up above. That's because the game can only have so many hostile mobs in an area at any given time, and if there's more than a certain number, then the game just won't put in any more. And this is the main bottleneck when trying to make super fast mob farms. So with my report finally fixed, we can instead have the player sitting here shooting like snowballs or arrows through this portal, and then once they go through, they would kill the blazes as they would be low health, or the arrow can hit like a TNT and ignite it, and then that TNT that's also lit by the arrow would also be considered from the player. So even though you're in a different dimension, you can still hold looting in the main hand, the projectile in the offhand. It will still give you the looting effect. And by doing this with snowballs, we can actually replenish the snow by putting more in the offhand while having the player AFK, just holding down right click. And every once in a while we can just release a gate, letting the player shoot out one snowball without needing to have like a macro, unlike when using the bow, because you have to actually pull the bow backwards before releasing the arrow. I've used this a lot in the past, like in my stray farm that gets you slowness arrows with looting, while the player was AFK the entire time. What farms would you like to see me update so they use this? I'm gonna have a lot of fun adding this to more of my different farms, which I'll be designing these farms live over at my Twitch streams. These are every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And it will answer one of my top asked questions is, how do you come up with all these crazy ideas? You can see that all being done in real time over there. And if you have Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime, make sure to go ahead and use that each and every month over there at Twitch, as it's a great way to support me and doesn't cost you any extra money. But you do have to remember to do it manually each and every month. And thanks to all you guys who have been doing that. It's been really helpful. Which also fixed this other old bug where you could shoot arrows through another portal as a player, which isn't actually a problem, but the problem was that you could shoot arrows and actually hurt players on the other side, even if PvP was turned off on the server settings. Although they have fixed similar bugs to this in the past, this one somehow got through until now. When it comes to withers, they are very strange in that they can shoot off both blue skulls as well as black wither skulls. Now if we go ahead and throw it into my automatic wither summoning and killing system here, the skulls are coming directly out of the heads, but then they are immediately hitting the bedrock. And when it's mad, it can shoot out the blue ones. The only problem is when we try to test to see if there is a blue skull or a black skull flying through the air, we can't actually do this in Minecraft. This is because the game wouldn't actually save what type of skull was being shot out. So if the wither would shoot out like a blue skull, then you would unload the chunks, come back, it would turn into a black skull. I talked about this in the past in my dozens of different wither machines. But this also made it very difficult for when designing these machines to tell if there was blue wither skulls coming out at any point just by using command blocks. Instead, you'd have to use other ways of doing this. But with the recent bug fix, now they will actually keep track of what type of skulls they shoot out, and they will be saved so you can actually also detect them with commands. In Bedrock Edition, you can actually put names onto minecarts and boats using an anvil. And when placed down, you can actually see these names, which is really cool. Except it wasn't in the Java edition, so they went ahead and did a parity fix, so we could also put cool names on our things. They fixed a bug related to a problem that was just recently added in these new 1.20.3 snapshots. And that was you could not actually shear a pumpkin to get a carved pumpkin like you could in the past. I'm not sure how this was accidentally broke, but they went ahead and fixed it once again in this snapshot. There was this funny bug that you could use on suspicious blocks like suspicious sand, where if you start brushing the item out of it, all of a sudden that block cannot actually fall until the item goes back inside again. So you get these floating gravity blocks just for a split moment before the item would go back in and it would actually fall. I don't think this trick was that useful, but it's no longer in the game. I fixed two other bugs related to brushing. One about the block brushing going out of distance, and the other one brushing too close to entities was stopping the brushing. The little tutorial icons in the top right were using the old textures, so now they've been upgraded. They also fix other texture issues, as well as make sure the player's hand animation looks better when using shields and feeding mobs. They also fixed quite a few different bugs related to commands. And they made some performance issues related to text as well as realms. Recently, I made this YouTube Shorts video about how there was a difference in description about the 3 different mobs that we could vote for during the Minecraft Live 2023 event compared to the China's version of it. Now, these mobs, once voted for, would make their way into the 1.21 update, and it turns out that the China edition said that the claw from the crab could not only place blocks far, but also break blocks far. It also said that it could be bred up using kelp. But apparently they didn't want us to know about this, or if it's just incorrect, because they went ahead and also changed the description of each of the 3 mobs in the Chinese edition when it comes to the mob vote. So now their description of the crab is very similar to what we have, where it only mentions them being able to place blocks far away, and doesn't even mention the breeding with kelp anymore. You guys also mentioned to me that when it came to the armadillo's description about the different armor, it was translated into English saying that there was dog armors with a plural. You mentioned in Chinese, there's actually no plural, so it might have been just translated wrong. You can see this, a new translation doesn't mention any plural of armor, it just says wolf armor, meaning only one type. So it's unlikely we're going to get different tiers of this armor. And the penguin's description no longer mentions that it can swim fast just like dolphins when inside of water. Do you think the person who wrote the China version was just making these assumptions, or do they know something that they just weren't supposed to be telling? Would you consider that information to be leaked, as these mobs haven't even been worked on yet, so how would they know what their actual properties are going to be? It's possible that this leaked information was more of the insider notes about cool ideas about each of the mobs. Let me know what you think. Now watch me do big brain stuff live over at my Twitch, or check out this playlist on how I design automatic farm for every single item in the game. As always, leave a like and I'll see you next one. Bye bye!